Hello, everyone, and welcome to September's Career Advice Series webinar, Online Research Tips You Didn't Learn in Law School. I am Emily Roshek, Associate Director of the newly enhanced ABA Legal Career Central, a career center that offers a robust source of career development resources and connects legal professionals across all disciplines and career stages with employers offering career opportunities. Today's presenter is Catherine Sanders Reach. She is the Director of Law Practice Management and Technology at the Chicago Bar Association.
Thanks, Emily, and welcome everyone today to Online Research Tips You Didn't Learn in Law School, which evidently was a hot topic because a lot of people have signed up for this program. And so what we want to do today is talk about some of the things that you should be aware of, whether you've been out of law school for a long time or recently out of law school, or you're currently in law school and are learning how to do legal research. There's a lot in the real world that will be a little different when you don't have unlimited access to some of the databases you do while you're in school. So the first thing I want to touch on is just the fact that while you can find a lot of law online, you have to question whether it's the authoritative source, is it the official source, and is it trustworthy? And to give you an example, in Chicago, if you go type a search into Google for the Chicago Landlord-Tenant Ordinance, the first hit that you get takes you to the Metropolitan Tenants Organization, which has an old version of the ordinance. It's not up to date. You'd actually have to go to the state's website for that. And so while Google is a great search engine and has a lot of really positive things about it that we're going to talk about, you do have to realize that the search engine results are based on relevancy and popularity, and so that's a particularly popular site for that type of information, but the information they have for the ordinance is out of date. The other thing is, when you're going to what would appear to be a trustworthy site, say again, an Illinois example, but this is pretty common in a lot of states. If you wanted to get the Illinois compiled statutes, you would go to the Illinois General Assembly's website, and you would have to note that there was a disclaimer and click on it to read the following. This site contains provisions of the Illinois compiled statutes from databases that were created for the use of the members and staff of the Illinois General Assembly. The provisions have not been edited for publication and are not in any sense the official text of the Illinois compiled statutes as enacted into law. The accuracy of any specific provision originating from the site cannot be assured, and you're urged to consult the official documents or contact legal counsel of your choice. Well, if you are legal counsel and this is where you've gone, where are you supposed to go? It then follows by saying the site should not be cited as an official or authoritative source. Court decisions may affect the interpretation and constitutionality of statutes. So what is the official compiled statutes to the state of Illinois? Well, it's in print. And we're going to talk about a little bit about dead tree sources. And I didn't make that phrase up. That was from a judge. But dead tree sources are the things that still exist as the official law in print, and those do exist. So we'll kind of look at some of those as we go through. But again, as you find law online, you're going to type in Google, you're going to find things that look official. You need to read the disclaimers, recognize that some things are not updated, and sometimes that's a bitter pill. The other thing to keep in mind is this, how complicated the law is. And as you are in school, I think you start recognizing that the law is a very complicated set of information in a print world and an electronic world. And this is a good example, is the Supreme Court slip opinions. So you can go to the Supreme Court's website, you can look at the slip opinions, and up until about a couple of years ago, when you looked at the slip opinions, they could swap out the slip opinions because they weren't the official printed pamphlets. So if they updated something, they would just swap it out. So this guy, recognizing that, created a Twitter account, and then he had an algorithm that would watch the Supreme Court's slip opinion site, note when there was a change in one of the slip opinions, and then he would redline the text and then make it available to people as kind of a public service. This Twitter account no longer needs to exist because the Slip Opinion site has been modified to deal with these issues. However, again, there's a big disclaimer on the court's website, and it says, these opinions may contain computer-generated errors or other deviations from the official printed slip opinions. Moreover, a slip opinion is replaced by a paginated version of the case in the preliminary print and subsequently by the final version of the case in the U.S. Reports bound volume. In case of discrepancies between the print and electronic versions of a slip opinion, the print version controls. Okay, again, the dead tree thing. However, where the electronic version has been designated revised, and when you go to the Supreme Court Slip Opinion website, you can see that it says revised. The electronic version controls to the extent that it differs from the print version with regard to the noted revision. At any rate, like I said, the law is complicated, and it's just kind of one of those things where you want to be sure that what you're relying on, that you're citing to a judge, that you're putting in a brief, is the final approved version of whatever before you go out and rely on it. So that's kind of what happens online with the law. So the other thing to note is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I had a little clip from a John Oliver special the other day, but unfortunately we don't have a good technology solution to play the video for you. But suffice it to say, you've all seen these kinds of headlines. There's a lot of bunk science. There's a lot of surveys and studies that are done that continuously prove and disprove the same points over and over again. And so, you know, and a lot of things are kind of hard to disprove. I'm a big fan of the site Snopes.com, and I was actually talking to an audience in Missouri, and one of the audience, I was talking about if you're going to be tweeting or using social media to promote your practice, before you just reflexively retweet an article or post something on your Facebook, make sure that you double check it and that it's accurate and true. And I said, you know, a good way to check this is Snopes. And so this attorney came up to me after the program and said, did you know that the founders of Snopes were arrested for fraud? I was like, oh my goodness. So I went and, of course, Googled it to figure out that they had been, you know, what they had been arrested for, because I had not heard that and it felt like I should have. And turns out that this gentleman got his information from a publication that was fairly insular in that all its links only went to other articles within itself. And so it was basically kind of they had some sort of gripe with Snopes, and so you need to be able to verify and justify any information you find on the internet. Obviously, you can't believe everything you read. And smart people get caught up by this. You get in a hurry. And so I think that's the biggest thing to remember is when you see something on the internet, spend some time to double check the facts. We're going to look at a lot of different resources to do that. Pulling this back and looking at it in a different way, though, there's a lot of reasons that you have a duty to Google. So in 2005, this kind of started it off where there was a case in the Indiana Appellate Court where a judge actually ruled that the lawyer had a duty to Google. He chastised the attorney for failing to search the internet for a missing party. He went in and said, we couldn't find this guy, so the court Googled it. And they found not only information about the party, but also his address and relatives of this person. And so the kind of final thing was the court said, you should have Googled this. And this is, there's a number of cases out there. If you actually Google duty to Google, you'll find some of the other ones. So again, you know, the internet is very useful. And you should be using it, but you also have to question the validity of everything that you find. So what is it good for? Well, let's see. In limited context, primary legal information, then also for legal research in terms of background, articles and current awareness, we're going to look at a lot of resources for that type of information, and it is especially good for things like that. Factual information, it's really good for kind of ready reference information, company information, government information, statistics, facts, census, all sorts of different things like that. So one of the things I'm going to point out before we kind of get into the meat of this program is that in the materials, which are in a segment, I think called handouts, let me look at this real quick. Yes, there is a portion of your dashboard that says handouts, and in that portion there is a PDF document. I urge you to download that because what it has in it is hyperlinks to all of the different resources that I'm about to talk about, and it has little descriptions of what we're talking about, and it's got a table of contents so you can use it kind of as a reference source in and of itself. So the next time you go, oh, I'm interested, you shouldn't talk about this, but I think I'd be interested in finding out about how to get international law, I've got resources that are going to go in that paper beyond what I'm going to be able to talk about here today because it would take too long. But I did put that together for you, so please do take advantage of it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is search engines. And we're going to talk about search engines because search engines are obviously one of the first ways you get into the internet. Now, thing to remember about search engines, and this goes for Google, Yahoo, Bing, any of the search engines you're using, they're only skimming the top of the web, and they've indexed trillions of pages. And even with that said, there's still a lot of content on the web that's considered the deep web. So you have two parts, or I guess there's the web, there's the deep web, and there's the dark web. We're not going to talk about the dark web today. That's the Tor browser and people doing weird things with Bitcoin. But the deep web, there's a lot of really useful content in the deep web, and the only reason that the indexes aren't finding it is because it's in databases or it's behind paywalls, or it's put together in such a way that the search engines aren't able to index it. So we're going to talk about using search engines, and we're going to look at a lot of kind of deep web sources. So first thing to remember about Google is, while it works really well just throwing in some keywords, if you use a little Boolean logic with Google, you will get better search results. So one of the things I use Google for all the time is to search websites. A lot of times the built-in search function in a lot of websites, especially a lot of government sites, is not that great. You get a lot of extraneous hits. So what you can do is you can basically set it up to have Google just search that particular site. Now, it's not doing anything special. It's more doing a Google search and then restricting the results to just that site. But you set it up with a keyword, site, and then www. and whatever the site is. Another thing to remember is if you don't put quotes around a phrase, while you will get that phrase probably in the first 10 hits or so, after that it's not going to put those words together. If you're looking for a specific phrase, always put quotes around them. Another thing that I've shown people how to do is restrict to domains or file types. And you can actually set up in your materials, there's a setup to show you how to do proximity searching and how to set up more sophisticated Boolean searches. But restricting searches to domains and file types, say for instance, you're looking for information from the government, a lot of times they publish that stuff in PDF. That is not going to be in the rankings from a popularity and relevancy standpoint. So when you do a Google search, that's going to be 10 pages deep in the results. So if you go ahead and restrict to a .gov and say file type PDF, you're more likely to get relevant information that would have been buried in the search results otherwise. So keep those kinds of things in mind. Just kind of strategize when you're putting the search together, what you're looking for, where that information may be held. Educational and governmental entities tend to publish in PDF. The search engines just don't index PDFs very deeply or very well. And that's the other thing to remember is that, how do you restrict a Google search by domain or file type? It's actually, again, look in your materials. You actually set it up. It's file type : and then .edu in your search terms, but it's all in your materials. And you can actually go into the Google Advanced Search if you can't remember all this stuff. Type into Google Advanced Search. It takes you to an advanced search page where you fill in the blanks, and it'll actually write the string, the Boolean string for you, so you don't have to figure out, do I put this before or after the : blah blah, is there a space? So that's my suggestion on that. Also, don't forget you can type in practically anything to Google and get instant answers. So if you got a tracking number for a UPS package, just type it into Google. If you're interested to see if your flight's on time, type in, AA, American Airlines, and 256, if your flight's 256, and it'll show you the flight time for that day and whether it's on time. I mean, crazy stuff with these instant answers that Google gives you. So it basically, if you have a question, check Google first. One thing I'll note is that I often do kind of a broader search, and then I'll start doing restrictions. So you can restrict to the web, but then you can also restrict to news or books, depending on the kind of search. And it actually contextually knows what to give you in terms of restrictions. So sometimes if you click that more button, it doesn't give you much more because of the search you've done. But one thing I use all the time is, see that button that says anytime? Right here, if you click on that, it actually says in the last 24 hours, in the last 3 days, in the last week, in the last month. That's a really useful limiter, because if you're searching for something that's kind of breaking news, you would probably want to restrict your keyword search to news and then under the time frame in the last week. And I'll actually I used that just today to find an article that I was going to use as an example for you. So that kind of thing, again, because of the way Google gives you results, relevancy and popularity doesn't mean the newest. It takes a little time to build those things. And I can see your questions, and I'll try to get hold of them. I mean, I'm just going to take a second here to read through them. Looks like we're good. So the next thing I want to talk about is some alternate search engines that you may or may not have heard about. And the first one I want to talk about is DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo is, I guess everybody is aware at this point that Google kind of tracks you, especially if you have a Gmail account that you're logged into, or you're logged into your Google account, you're using Chrome, you're logged into that. All of the search results are making assumptions based on who you are, what it knows about you, what it's tracking in your Gmail, what you searched before, your search history, your IP address, where you are. So all of your Google search results are designed to be relevant to you, but sometimes that's not what you want. So there's other places to go. One, again, is DuckDuckGo. I really like DuckDuckGo. It's a very clean interface. They don't track you. They have a no tracking privacy policy. And you're also going to get slightly different results than you get through Google, and so sometimes it's worth going to both just to see. Instead of doing that site restriction like we talked about, DuckDuckGo has this thing called a bang parameter. So a bang parameter, you put an exclamation point, and then if you see in this screenshot, you've dropped it down, you can do bang M, and that searches Google Maps, or bang IMDb, and then your keyword, and that search is IMDb, which is the database with all the Hollywood and movie information and information about movie stars and stuff. More relevant, perhaps, is Bang YT for Bang YouTube, and you can do Bang YouTube Kittens, and then it searches YouTube for kitten videos. So, all sorts of fun stuff that you can do, but you can do that site restricted search. And there's ways to do that in Google as well, and there's some Chrome extensions to do that, but DuckDuckGo is just another one to check out. Another search engine that I like, if you really want to search Google but you don't want to have all of the assumptions that Google makes about you, then check out Startpage. And Startpage is a private search engine that uses Google's results. So they don't share cookies. They don't look at your history. They don't collect anything in cache. It's just a clean, unbiased search with Google results. So that's another place. Mostly the thing that I find with Google is it makes assumptions that I want to look for everything that's close to home, which is not always the case. And that's why things like Startpage are useful to me. Excuse me. The next one is Wolfram Alpha, and Wolfram Alpha is a very different search engine. It's really more of a fact engine than a search engine. And Wolfram Alpha does mathematical functions, so you can analyze data on a stock. Excuse me, just a second. Okay. You can analyze stock data. You can do mortgage calculations, compute salary equivalents, all sorts of things that might be useful to a lawyer. And so for that kind of thing, check out Wolfram Alpha. They also have an app that costs an entire $5 that lets you carry this around in your pocket. Okay, the dreaded link rot. What we're talking about here is link rot is where sites disappear from the internet, which happens with alarming frequency, especially in the case of briefs where cases are cited. There's an incredibly high percentage of link rot in online briefs. So it's a problem that people are trying to address in different ways. Excuse me. So you've probably heard of the Internet Archive or the Wayback Machine. And the Wayback Machine is very useful to a point. The reality is, if you want to see a page of a site from 2 years ago, you may or may not find it. One thing you can do is, if you know that you want to be able to track a particular website, you can actually go into the Wayback Machine and put the site that you want to track, and it will start tracking it for you. So that's a useful bit of information. So it's not always going to be exactly what you're looking for, but it's worth a shot. Also, looking at the search engine's cache. So if you do a search, click on the link, the page is dead, go back to the search results and click on the little caret, in Google, and it'll show you an option to click on cache, and it'll show you the cached website. The Chesapeake Digital Preservation Group is interesting in that it's got government policy and legal information archived primarily from federal and foreign government documents from Maryland, Virginia, and D.C., and this is a partnership between Harvard, Georgetown, and the Maryland and Virginia state law libraries, because they recognize that a lot of the government information disappears from the web, and they're trying to kind of maintain it online. Okay, so the next thing we're going to touch on is legal portals, and legal portals basically are a starting point to get to somewhere else on the web. They have a lot of content, but they also lead you to content. So looking at 3, and there are far more than this, but these are probably the top. Things like Justia. Justia has articles, case law, statutory law, blogs, and a whole lot more. One of the things that I really like about Justia is that you can drill down to a specific court and get updates with summaries to new opinions issued by that court. So I get a number of Illinois-specific summaries of new opinions issued by appellate and Supreme Court in Illinois, but you can go to pretty discrete jurisdictions to get case law updates. They also have little newsletters that are, opinions that have to do with ethics and things like that. So that's one of the things that I think Justia is particularly useful at. The Legal Information Institute has been around. It's from Cornell Law School. It's been around since 1992. Very venerable site. It has everything from the Constitution to the Uniform Commercial Code. And they also have a project called WEX, which is a community-built legal dictionary / encyclopedia. And so if you are the kind of person who really is interested in legal research and writing, you can go contribute to WEX. Oh, so I just noticed a question. How is Wolfram Alpha different from Wikipedia? Wolfram Alpha will actually do computations. Wikipedia just gives you information. Okay. The next thing, in Google Legal Scholars, or Google Scholar Legal. So Google Scholar Legal, you may or may not be aware that Google created a database of the law. And so you can actually go to just Google Scholar, or you can go to scholar.google.com and type in a case name or keywords, and then underneath it, see where it says articles or legal opinions and journals. If you click on legal opinions and journals, when you click on that link, then it gives you the option to narrow your search, and you can narrow your search by federal courts, state courts, specific state courts, Supreme and appellate courts within the states. So you can narrow your search pretty dramatically, or keep it very broad. And then once you do the search in there, not only does it give you the opinions, it actually gives you treatment and shows whether a case has been cited, how often, and then kind of it gives you a 3 little bars, and if it's got all 3 bars, then that's been cited more often than others. So it's all algorithm based. It's not like a Keysight or Shepard's where there are humans making those editorial determinations. But still, it's an amazing resource that's available to the public for free. And so if if you're in a bind, this is a place that you could go check out. Okay. And I'm sorry for the long pauses. I came down with a terrible cold the other day, so sometimes I have to put you on mute to sneeze. So looking at the resources from the federal government, there's a really rich treasure trove of information, up-to-date and official, from the federal government. The states are lagging behind pretty significantly, but the feds have got it together. So in your materials, again, you can go through and check out the specifics about a lot of these, but just to quickly remind you, Thomas used to be the database that you would go through the Law Library of Congress. Now it's called congress.gov, and it provides access to federal bills back to 1979 and public laws back to 1973. You can basically do the better part of a federal legislative history for free. And so the other thing about Congress that you would be interested in is GovTrack. This is not from the government. This is privately funded, but it's where you can track what's going on in Congress. You can follow a bill. You can get updates. You can follow the activities of particular senators or Congress people. So this is another useful site for tracking what's happening in the law. Excuse me. There's the code search to search the U.S. code. There's the eCFR, which is the electronic version of the CFR. Interestingly, they're going to actually make this the permanent. Currently, it's the unofficial record, but it's going to be the official edition coming up soon. Because of that, they're going to keep past CFRs online. So right now, you can see past updates to the CFR back to 2015. So let's talk about some of the new kids on the block, the products that have come out. I guess it's kind of true in life that when something goes away, something comes in to take its place. So when I was updating the research for this particular program, I was really disappointed to see things like the Global Legal Information Network from the Law Library of Congress has been defunded and no longer exists. And I was getting a little despondent. But then I found that some people are coming in to kind of fill in the blanks. And so sorry, I was reading the questions again. I think you can all hear me. Okay. Pacer Pro is basically adding a better search tool onto Pacer. You still have to have a Pacer account, but what Pacer Pro does is it lets you search multiple district courts and bankruptcy courts now. I believe their dockets in Pacer run a search by party or company name, case number. You can narrow it by filing date, and then bookmark the cases to keep them up to date. You can download all of the documents from the case at the same time, and a lot of things that Pacer, the tool, does not let you do or does not let you do for free. And so for some limited use, like you can get scheduled updates on cases on and email alerts, and then if you pay them like $25 a month, you get unlimited batch downloads. But basically, Pacer search and Pacer's functionality is kind of bothersome, and Pacer Pro adds a better skin. Let's see. I will get to your question about Blue Book in a second. And I hate to disappoint you. I'm not sure that I know of anything for free, but let me look at that question in a sec. Okay, so another one, and something that's actually kind of pretty exciting. This is actually free to law students right now and faculty. It's called Ravel, and Ravel came out in 2012. And what they're trying to do is give you a visualization of the law. So when you go and put in your keywords in, you're going to get the result set on the right, but you also are going to see a visual kind of how these cases relate to each other, and that's done that visualization with those circles. And so a circle, if you if you mouse over that circle, represents a case that has been cited a whole lot more times than others. So in theory, it's has a higher precedent. It would be something that you want to look at first versus other cases that aren't as interesting to other people to cite to. The thing down at the bottom is a slider, so you can actually restrict by year. So you can slide over by year. You can see the visualizations. You can click through. Excuse me. On Ravel, one of the things that's really exciting about Ravel is that they are working with Harvard's Case Law Access Project to host the digitized law of every published U.S. case since the beginning. And when I say since the beginning, some of these are predating the Constitution. And so this project should be available around mid-2017 is what they're saying, and that's going to be made free to everybody through Ravel. And so Ravel right now is free. Some of the more advanced features are what you paid for. Paid things are judge analytics, case analytics, search history, client matter tracking, and other things like that. Now you may be wondering, especially if you're in law school, what's the reality? How much am I really going to need access to really old cases? And so this is an example ripped from the headlines. There was a case in Illinois last month in which an unmarried same-sex couple split up, and there was a dispute over the division of property. That dispute went up to the Illinois Supreme Court, who rejected property division for unmarried couples. So basically they said, it's not like you're married. That's because the precedent-setting case cited and upheld by the Supreme Court in 2016 was written in 1979, upholding a 1905 law that Illinois doesn't allow common law marriage. So and the Supreme Court acknowledged, societal norms and attitudes about unmarried people living together are very different than the 70s, but despite that, they ruled that unmarried domestic partners still have no right to each other's property if they break up. If you were representing this couple, you would probably have to go back to the beginning to read the original law, the precedent-setting case, if you were going to, go through this. And also, now we've got this new precedent. So being able to get back into the research of the law is really important. Ravel is a website, and it's just at www.ravel.com. And someone asked in a pinch, would I say Google Scholar's comparable resource of case law, if Lexis or Westlaw, is unavailable? To a degree, yes. Both Lexis and Westlaw have case law going back much farther than what Google Scholar has, but in a pinch, especially if you're looking for a specific case, it's worth going to do a check on. And for the most part, I think Ravel's going to take that place as being the go-to place. Ravel doesn't charge a fee for your search and the results, and that's one of the deals that they have with Harvard, is that they're going to make the law available for free. So they're going to get all the law ever published, and it'll be made available for free. That's how they're getting it with Harvard. And like I said, they're going to try to charge up for other things, but right now it's free. Pacer Pro for limited use is free. There is a fee if you want to use it to track more than 2 cases at a time. I'm sorry, I'm reading through these questions. I'm actually going to hang on to the questions, and I think it is ravellaw.com. And it's, again, these things are in your materials. Your materials are in handouts, and there's a PDF. The PDF starts out with these slides, and then following the slides in the same PDF is a 22-page paper that talks about all these different resources. But I want to get to case text because Ravel is cool, so is case text. Case text is cool because in addition to having the cases, opinions, and regs, it also has analysis and commentary. And so, again, very much like Ravel, you can do a keyword search and get results with case law and read the cases. But what they also add is analysis and summaries from lawyers who are writing content to submit to case text for free. And these are lawyers in big firms all over the country doing expert analysis and making it available so that when you're doing a keyword search in case text, you're getting the cases and analysis all at the same time. So you can kind of fill in any blanks that you have, especially if you're new to a particular area of law. You can read about the issues that are being talked about in these particular cases or that match your keyword search. Excuse me. Case text is free again for limited use if you want to get more of the bells and whistles, and then you pay for it. The other thing that case text has is this thing called WeCite, and if you're a student and you like legal research and you like to do analysis, WeCite is a crowdsourced citation treatment. So the way Shepard's and KeyCite work in Lexis and Westlaw is that there are attorneys reading cases and saying whether the case is positive, referencing, negative, and then they give you those little flags, and then you can use those to make decisions about the strength of a case. WeCite is basically you providing that information. So you can read a case, and then you click over to WeCite, and you can crowdsource the citation treatment and then provide an explanation. They will all the treatment and comments are moderated, so someone is checking the stuff before it goes online. And if you participate, you can earn points and gift cards. So if you want to be on the leaderboard for doing case analysis, then go to Case Text and participate in WeCite. Another really cool thing that Case Text is doing, it is not free. And I frankly don't know exactly how much it costs because they don't put it online. I read on Bob Ambrosi's Law Sites blog that it was $149 a month. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. There is a 7-day free trial if you want to see how it works, but it's called CARA. CARA stands for Case Analysis Research Assistant, and what CARA does is you upload a brief, a filing, a motion, a Word document that you have, and it runs through. It kind of works like, and the way they explained it to me was like Pandora's Music Genome Project, where you put in the name of a band, and based on the instruments in the band, the kind of time, I think, it looks at a lot of different aspects of that band and gives you things like that that you might like. CARA does that with your motion. So you can put it in there, and it looks at keywords, and it looks at the citations, and it gives you a list of cases as if you had done a keyword search. They showed me an example with a brief that had been written to argue for Uber, that the employees working for Uber were contract employees or contract workers versus employees, and it brought all sorts of interesting cases up. So, and then also because it's got the analysis too. So really, really useful information coming up through CARA. It's definitely worth checking out. Court Listener, I'll just say that it also has case law, but it also has an advanced judges search. And so one of the things, especially if you're new to the legal practice, is if you're going up in front of a judge, you probably want to know as much as you can about the judge. So a couple of things it has here: They have an advanced oral argument search, so you can search by judge, you can search by docket, you can search by case name, and actually hear the oral arguments as long as it's in federal appellate or Supreme Courts. Which gets me to the next thing, which is how do you get research about a judge? If you are lucky enough to get in a fairly, established firm, you can trot down the hall and ask somebody, I'm going to do an appearance in front of this judge. What do you know about them? But you may not have that luxury, and so there's a couple of different places you can look. Again, this is all in your materials with links to the different sites. But RobeProbe and the Robing Room are both judicial rating sites. You have to take it with a grain of salt, like any rating site. Ballotopedia is a website that you can actually drill down, see lists of every judge in a specific court. So if you're unfamiliar with a court and you want to see all the presiding judges in that court, you can see the list. Then you can click through to the judge to see bios, things like the year they were appointed, how old they are, where they went to school, both graduate and undergraduate, where they went to law school, where they practiced before. So a lot of information that can show you a little insight into the judge. Almanac of the Federal Judiciary, remember we said dead tree sources? This is a dead tree source. This is something that you can go to probably the law library and get online, but it's also in print, and it has extensive information on judges at the federal level. It's a $2,000 book. This is why we love law libraries. Then there's Court Listener and Plain Sight. Both of those also have judicial information. If you're an Illinois attorney, Sullivan's is the book that everybody here, in fact, as a former law librarian, we had to keep Sullivan's at the reference desk, behind the reference desk, because it tended to walk away, because it has all the intelligence on every judge in Illinois. Okay, so now we're going to move on to secondary sources. This is basically your legal intelligence, how you get up to speed on topics. And there's a couple of different really useful places. We've mentioned JD Supra, excuse me, as a place to get information. Lexology and Mondac are also both really useful. All of the content from all of these is written by attorneys who, lucky for us, attorneys like to write. They like to do analysis. They like to write about what's going on in the law. So they're publishing the content to these free sites, and you can go and do keyword searches. You can also get updates from these sites as well. There is a Google custom search put together that searches across law firm websites, and law firms publish a lot of content on their websites. This one searches across all of them. It's called Fee-Fi-Fo Firm. The other place is law journals through the Legal Scholarship Network at the Social Science Research Network, or SSRN. There's legal articles, research papers, and if you're looking for a job at a law school, faculty job openings as well. Another place to get kind of legal scholarship is legal blogs, and the best place to find out whether there's a blog on a particular topic is to go to either the Justia blog search and search for your terms. They also have a directory by topic, so you can go through there and see all the blogs on a particular topic. And then the ABA Journal has a blog directory. It doesn't have a search, but you can go through and choose a topic and see all the blogs being published. And this is, again, one of the things about blogs to remember is they're very fast in terms of there's no lag time with editorial staff or print or, a publication schedule. As soon as they read something, write up analysis, they can publish on the blog. So this tends to be where the most breaking news is because of the lack of typical publication lag time. That said, there's not a lot of editing going on, and so again, just make sure that you don't completely rely on it without checking your facts. I love news. I'm kind of a news junkie. There's some really great resources for news. Jurist is one of them. ABA Journal sends out a daily email with headlines, not just journal articles, but other news, legal news that they've picked up and kind of put together. So it's a great aggregate source. The other thing is the general news aggregators. If you want to see how a topic has been treated, not just by one newspaper, and they all have a specific bent and tone, I usually check a couple of newspapers to see how they've treated a particular topic. Nice thing about Google News is it shows you U.S. and international news. So a lot of times how something is treated in the U.S. will be written about very differently in Canada or the UK. So it's always worth going to check an international newspaper in English to see how things are being treated. My recent foray into Google News was because of the creepy clown pandemic that we have. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been articles from every which way about creepy clowns, and I established from Google News searches that there have been creepy clowns spotted in North Carolina, South Carolina, Wisconsin, and Illinois since 2014. So that's a bit of information you can use. Okay, so business research and competitive intelligence. This is the kind of stuff where if you are doing either helping small businesses or you're doing you're a contract attorney, transactional attorney, and you're just looking at information about companies, this is where you would want to start. Hoover's has been around for a long time, as has Dun & Bradstreet. There is some free information from them, but both of them will charge you for a report. You can get things like corporate family tree, company profiles, information on international companies. Most of the content about the companies in these resources are for publicly traded companies. Big Charts is a little different. It's an investment research website. The thing that I think that's really cool about it, in addition to being able to generate your own charts and things like that, is if you're doing work on a settlement or a probate and you need to get the stock valuation for a stock on a particular day, you can go to Big Charts, and this is completely free. Go to the historical quote section, pick your day, pick your stock, and it will show you how much that stock traded for on that particular day. So, it's just a matter of knowing that these resources are out here. You're not going to get this information probably by doing a Google search, and certainly not at the depth of information that's available through them. Again, these are for publicly traded companies. If you want to look at information about private companies, it gets a little bit tougher because they don't have to file with the SEC. They're not as heavily regulated. So finding out information about private companies, you would want to, and in your materials, I've given you a couple of guides on looking at different there's all sorts of guides for private company research, but this site is, if you're going to look in one place, the private company research called Privco. It will give you information about privately held companies, not teeny tiny ones, but probably if it has a couple locations, they're going to have revenue, employee productivity, funding, business summary, competitors, things like that. It is limited information for free, or you can pay $199 for a single company report, or you can subscribe to the site. When I did this program before, someone asked me about nonprofit research, and in truth, they're not going to be in the private company and they're not going to be in the publicly traded company, but there is a website called GuideStar that, for the most part, GuideStar has a ton of free information. If you want more information. It's $250 a month, but they have 1.8 million tax-exempt organizations, thousands of faith-based nonprofits that aren't required to register with the IRS. They have full Form 990s submitted to the IRS, chief officers, membership numbers, annual reports, anything you want to know about nonprofits. GuideStar is probably the place to look. Another site that I thought would be interesting, especially for those who are looking for jobs, is this site called Vault. And Vault has intelligence about companies, including law firms. So you can get industry outlooks and trends and predictions about companies. You can also see rankings and ratings for companies. You can get from apparently actual people who work there, what they call uppers and downers, the respective clients and cases, base salaries, all sorts of stuff. To get full access to it, it's $20 for 3 months. So if you're looking for jobs, you need, one of the things to remember is, and I've hired a lot of people over the years, and I worked at the American Bar Association and the Legal Technology Resource Center for 11 years. And when people would come in for a job interview, I would say, what do you know about us? And a lot of times they would say, the American Bar Association has over 400,000 members and is the largest voluntary, and I would say, stop. You know about the Legal Technology Resource Center. We have a website. We have a ton of information. They hadn't even gone to really find out more about the department they would work for. So, you know, if you're going to a job interview for a large firm that has a lot of practice areas, dig deep and find out about that practice area, about who's in there. Use all these resources to do your homework before you go in. Another thing to remember is that your local law library actually has a lot of these resources, especially the business research resources, available to you for free. Or rather, it's not free, you pay taxes, and that's why they have them. In Chicago, for instance, at the Chicago Public Library, if I can use my library card to log in and search these extremely expensive databases like Hoover's and Dun & Bradstreet and Tubbs and Gale and all that, because I live here and I pay taxes. So we should definitely keep that in mind. We are getting close to the end, but I just want to point out a couple of things. If you need to dig up information on people, BRB has compiled a list of where to get free public records. So you would go to their site and then drill down by the state, and then you can, so this is kind of a screenshot of their front page. You go to state, county, or city, and then you figure out, you know, do you need a birth certificate, or, you know, what kind of information you need, and you can go through there. Do you need a PIN number for a residence? You can get all of that through public records. If you need more than just public records information, say, for instance, you want to get credit history, liens, bankruptcies, ownership information, kind of credit information, TLOXP is the place to go. It's very much like what is in Accurate that you can get through Lexis or on its own. TLO is a little less expensive, and there's no long-term commitment. They do check you out to make sure you are a lawyer. They won't let anybody in. It's a good thing because you get extensive information on what's in there about people. And then Spokeo, ZoomInfo people, you can read about them in the materials. They're just slightly scary places to look for people. So the other thing is social media. People put a lot of information about themselves on social media. There's a social media search engine that you can actually go to and either search a bunch of social media sites at the same time, or you can see what Google would have given you if you just restricted to Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Instagram, Pinterest, things like that. So again, that's in the materials. Emily, I believe that is all the time we have. Again, please download the handout. In the back of the handout, there is all the information I just gave you, and plus lots more. Emily, you want to tell them about what's coming up?
Yes, thank you so much, Catherine, especially since you have a cold or getting over one. We really appreciate you spending time with us today. And thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. Please be sure to check out the next 2 webinars in this Career Advice series coming up on October 14th. We have Take Your Practice to the Next Level, Use Knowledge Management to Maximize Your Productivity and Business Intelligence. And then on November 11th, we have a program on Powering Up Your LinkedIn Profile. Also be sure to check out our ABA Legal Career Central's redesigned mobile-friendly website at abalcc.org. And if you're looking for a job, check out our job board at jobs.americanbar.org. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.